This episode of the Pain Education Corner is sponsored by the Comella Foundation. The Comella Foundation is committed to relieving pain naturally using osteopathic healing principles. Here at the Comella Foundation, we envision a world where people achieve their maximum potential by being empowered with knowledge and skills to heal themselves and others. This information is to be used for educational purposes only and not to be construed as medical advice. If you have any questions or concerns, please consult a licensed healthcare professional. Hello, it's Bill, the Knee Pain Guru, and welcome to the Pain Education Podcast, brought to you on behalf of the Comella Foundation. Today we have an awesome guest. I'm interested in digging in with David Somerville. David is going to talk to us about how our beliefs and emotions create back pain. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Bill. I really appreciate you inviting me to the podcast and giving me the opportunity to talk about emotions, beliefs, and pain in the body.
Yes.
How are they connected? Obviously, when you're in pain, right? Mm-hmm. The first thing you're aware of, it's happening in your body, right? But, the idea when I first encountered it, the idea that beliefs could actually lead to an emotional response, mm-hmm. and the emotional response can, over time, crystallize in something that could manifest as physical pain within the body.
Nice.
That's
David, we're going to dig into all of that. I want to share with our listeners your background. Love to hear your training, kind of like what brought you to today.
Exactly. Sure.
Cliff notes.
Cliff notes. Perfect. So for me to get into the work that I do, came from my own self-healing. Actually, I had depression when I was in my late teens and early 20s, quite serious. And then also to deal with that, get into substance abuse and all of that, and kind of hit bottom. And for me, I had to find a way to overcome that for myself. So, I looked into, traditional means of that through counseling and all of that. And then, got into more of a holistic area where I discovered through taking a course or a workshop around the idea that you can have emotions trapped in your body that can be causing, changes in your mood, who you are, you don't feel like yourself, depression, and physical problems as well for some people. Mm-hmm. And so, I just thought, wow, this sounded good. So I took this course and it was an eye opener because for me, I was brought up in a family, being a guy, right? Nowadays, guys are a lot more emotional and express their feelings, more openly amongst guys, let alone, just outwardly. So I was brought up in a family where my dad wasn't a very emotional person. He was a loving person, but he didn't show his emotions. So for me, I was shown that was the way to be, right? So, so that became my experience, my belief. So for me, I had all this emotion that I never learned. I didn't have the skills to express. So it became trapped within my own body, within my own mind, so, and because I couldn't express it, emotions are energy. If we've ever had, any strong emotion that you have, right, you can physically feel it in your body, right? So the idea was that over time, I couldn't express these emotions. And then, so taking this course, it showed me, a modality actually, because I learned how to do it as part of the course with other people. And then I was certified in it, was the way for you to get in touch with those emotions and to release them in a comfortable way. And in doing that, believe me, my physical body felt the response to that too. So tension and a depression, on a mind level, and the, overthinking and it comes with depression and all of that. So that kind of disappeared. So then all of a sudden, wow, this stuff really works. So, of course, because it worked for me, it became real. So, I took other courses in this method and then started to work with people in that.
And what was a method called? What was
It's cell pattern release was the
Mm-hmm.
name of the method. And it was quite a while ago in my 20s. So it was like 35, 40 years ago. So,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. So, I got into that, and then I just continued other means of trying to heal myself with different modalities. I took Reiki, which is an energy exchange, method to help the body heal itself, more or less.
Mm, sure.
So I became certified in that. I'm also a certified rebirther. So again, it's working with trauma that's stored in the body that actually can go back to the birth,
Mm-hmm.
where you use breath um, to breath work with a person for a period of time, and it actually releases the memories that are stored in your body and the trauma that's attached to those memories. They can,
Mm-hmm.
within the body, they can go right back to your birth, actually, because birth is actually something that's traumatic for everybody. So whether you had a
Sure.
good birth or not, just the idea of it. So, anyways, that's another thing that I'm trained in. Um, let's see what else. So, and then what I did was I developed recently. Oh, actually, one more thing I forgot to mention is I'm also trained in theta healing, which is a belief work. So just like I mentioned that um, pain can in a physical body can come from emotions. It can also come from psychological pain, like thinking, the way you think, the beliefs you have about yourself, the way you think about yourself. So those can translate actually into a physical response. Because you think about yourself, um, you know, feeling, having a belief about yourself, you don't feel good about yourself, or you have a belief that I don't amount to anything. Let's say you've been brought up that way, where you never have a supportive relationship from your parents or something, as an example. So that can psychologically create a reaction in your body, right? So when you feel good about yourself, think of how you feel in your body. You feel relaxed, and your body reflects that. So if you have years of being in a negative environment where it creates a beliefs, it can manifest in a physical reaction. So the belief work that I took training in is what I use in my session as well as the emotional component too. So I work with people on the belief level. If they have limiting or negative subconscious beliefs, unconscious beliefs, they might not even be aware that they have, helping them release and change those. And also on the emotional side, if they have emotional cell pattern memory trapped on their inside their body, like right on the cellular level, that we can actually, there's a method that I developed from that method that I mentioned I was trained in. It's a little bit quicker and it works even online. So I can work with people online, and they don't really, people don't need to get into their emotions. Some people are nervous about that. Oh, geez, I don't
Sure.
want to express my emotions. Well, the original method I mentioned to you, I did. That was part of it. You had people release their emotions. Well, this method that they sort of developed, that came to me and I developed, and I've been using it now for over 3 years, really good
Mhm.
results. Even with physical issues, people are having really good responses because it deals in the body. So it helps people release that energy without having to re-experience the trauma of the emotion. They're witnessing it, right? So they just see that energy leaving, and it actually, can shift their body out of the fight or flight response that they're stuck in, which is, a lot of times the pain and all of that. If you look at it, the body's responding almost like you're in a fight or flight response.
Yeah.
So,
David, you mentioned something as you were sharing that information.
mhm.
One of the things, and it happened in the last interview that I did, and I'm noticing this about people who are really skilled at helping people out of pain or otherwise,
Yeah.
that they gloss over this one point.
Okay.
For instance, one of my last persons I interviewed, she had been in a car accident. She was like, "Yeah, I was in a car accident, and then I got into studying this stuff." And then she shared, it was like, yeah, she completely shattered her ankle and her foot. She snapped off her humerus,
Wow.
clean break. The doctor put her arm on backwards,
Yeah.
and she had stuff where she broke her collarbone and her ribs.
Yeah.
She glossed over it like, oh, It was a car accident.
Yeah.
So you had said you hit bottom,
Yes. Yeah.
and it almost seems like a similar pattern, because that's what I do. I watch for patterns,
Yeah.
and I'm really observing the people that have gifts for helping people out of pain, or gifts for helping people resolve issues in their life. They gloss over the thing that made the biggest difference for them,
Mm.
and like their turning point.
Yeah.
So it sounds like this, whatever bottom meant to you
Yes.
in your late teens,
Yeah.
steered the ship in a direction that you started the cell pattern release, the Reiki, the rebirther training, the theta healing training.
Yes.
I'd
Yeah.
like you to speak more about,
Sure.
what does bottom mean to you?
Exactly.
Like hitting that bottom.
Thank you for taking me back. No, it's totally understandable because it's done. Like that was 40 years ago. And
Sure.
I wouldn't be who I am now doing what I do without it. Like I've resolved that. Like I realized that that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that I don't I live an exceptional life now. And back then I couldn't even imagine what that even looked like. But I
Mm-hmm.
realize I've lived an exceptional life now. And this is just how I feel about myself and my life and how it's
Sure.
evolved because I was pushed to uncover things about myself that
Mm-hmm.
were hidden and a discovered strength that I had within myself, right? That I didn't know I had by being forced to, because
Mm-hmm.
no one else could help me. When I hit bottom, sure, I had support in my family. Like I'm not saying I had didn't have support because I did actually. First thing I discovered was ask for help. I'd never asked for help. I thought it was a weakness. I'm a guy, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just for me, the way I was brought up, you do things yourself, you overcome, it's a weakness to show there's something wrong. You don't even talk about it. Like I mentioned, my father, he
Yeah.
didn't really talk much, so for me to even ask for help was huge,
Mm-hmm.
so I did that. And then it was like a breath of fresh air. So things opened for me. All of a sudden I realized I couldn't do it all myself. I had to ask for help.
Yeah.
So that, anyways, this,
Yeah. What was, like, what was the difficulty? Was it
yeah,
suicidal thoughts? Was it staying in bed for days? Was it gaining, like, what was bottom? What did it look like
sure.
for
What
David?
did it look like? Yeah. Yeah. Bottom was pretty much what you're saying. Like, I actually had a suicide attempt and, I, thankfully it didn't happen for me that way, and I'm here. So, but really, life was so painful. Like when you talk about pain on a physical level, I'm
Mm-hmm.
lucky I don't really have or haven't encountered that in my life really, but psychological from what was going on in my head, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and my beliefs that I had about myself, how I felt about myself that I didn't even know. I didn't know what it was. I was just feeling it was so real. So for bottom for me was just not wanting to be here, wanting to medicate myself away from those feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course that did work at first, and had a lot of fun. I'll be honest, had a lot of fun doing it for a period of time, but then once it stopped working, you know, um, guess what? The issues are still underneath all the medication. So, uh,
Sure.
yeah. So for me, it was a point where I had to change, or else I wasn't going to be here. Like, with the suicide attempt, it didn't work out. I changed everything. And right then, I realized I had to change my life. It was almost a spiritual awakening for me.
Uh-huh.
I woke up one morning and realized that, I had to. I had to change my whole life. I completely, disowned all the people that I associated with that I drank with. Nothing against them. It's just
Mm-hmm.
for me, I couldn't be that person anymore, and I didn't even know what that meant. I just had to act for self-preservation, and that put me on the path really to to my healing, and then of
Yeah.
course I asked for help, and I had traditional counseling that got me talking, and then that got the energy moving,
Mm-hmm.
got me out of my head. And then I was good. I had some antidepressants that I was taking for a while that helped me get over it to a degree. But
Yeah. And just so our listeners are clear, and I'm not digging this up to like
no,
on David. This is more for Because the person that's looking for help, the person that is going, my back hurts, my neck hurts, my shoulders hurt, and I'm doing this, I'm doing prescription drugs, I'm drinking, I'm doing this thing. If they can relate to the person that has already been through it, if they can go, oh, I'm in that same experience David was in, I'm going to trust David more because he's already been through the same stuff that I've been through. Like he's doing the same thing. So he knows what it is. So I heard you were drinking
Mm-hmm.
and
taking drugs as well. Yeah.
And drugs. And was it prescription drugs or just?
No, just, some
Whatever
marijuana,
available.
whatever was available,
Okay.
after a few times, and chemicals like that. But luckily I was out of it before, some of the scarier later drugs came on board.
Yeah.
Anything that would help disconnect me from what my reality was in my head and in my body,
Totally.
So
Yeah, that's legit. I get it.
Yeah.
So, and that's awesome. I think it's really key to your story. And for those that are listening, because they'll just say they're in physical pain and they won't connect it with all this other stuff that we're going to dig into today on the call.
Yeah. And just if I can add one more thing, Bill, on top of that was, like I mentioned, that I love my life now. I could never envision me being in that feeling, knowing that I love my life, that I want to be here as long as I'm here, doing what I do. I love what I do.
Yeah.
It's possible, so I want to say to people, it's possible, it really is, you don't know how to get there. Right. And, that's really what my job, I see my job in the work. I'm a facilitator through my experience, because I can be compassionate. I obviously I haven't been exactly what you've been through, or the client that's coming to me. But, I can relate to it in my own way. So, there's no judgment ever in what I do. So I'm here to just help you through your process to find out whatever it is that's in the way for getting you to where your version of me right now would be.
Yeah. And that's an excellent point, because many people, when they're in the weeds, when they can't see past like the next 5 minutes, there's that place where very much like you were saying, you couldn't see the version of yourself, that the life that you're living right now and how wonderful it is. Yes. And I think that's the carrot. It's the unseen carrot.
Yeah.
That, like, how do we get to that place? But know that if you steer the ship in the right direction, you're going to get there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, when people say I'm stuck, well, that's not just a word. That's what happens is you can't go forward, the body a lot of times, well, not even just the body and the mind. One thing I've discovered with the modalities I work with is that the body is an amazing thing. It's trying to keep balance. It's protecting you, so sometimes the reactions that happen even on a body level or a mind level around beliefs and stuff, it can be the body acting out a protective mechanism within you, right? It's based on the past. A lot of times it's based on something that might have happened to you, or maybe it even happened through a genetic pattern, right? So like, something passed down through your mother, through your birth or something like that. So, there's these experiences that, you just can't, you don't know where it came from. Sure. So, the process is about, getting unstuck by trusting and taking that first step and allowing the process. And that's really what I help people. That's, like I say, I'm a guide. I don't take you to France or Spain, but I help you as a tour guide, a facilitator, through a process where we can uncover, what the source of your back pain might be. Sure. Or your knee pain, or, maybe we're talking here and all of a sudden you're relating back pain to something else on a mind level that just popped out into your head. Those things can be tied together. So again, I help people connect the dots of that, and then the methodologies we work with together, are to release that energy so you're free from it. Because once you're free of it, it's gone. It's gone forever. The stuff I went through, yeah, I have a memory of it, but it's gone. It's a black and white picture on the wall. It's not a moving picture anymore. So I see it there, and it serves me. You know, might come up again. You know, it might be an occurrence where, you know, I've had it. Actually, it's been years since I had it, but recently, because of COVID, stimulating all this fight or flight response from people, right? Because our survival is challenged now with COVID, right? That you know, I'm seeing it in clients, but I'm seeing it in myself, where something's come up where all of a sudden I haven't had that thought of, I could have a drink now. I haven't had that in decades. And believe it or not, the PTSD response from, you know, the COVID, you know, fear of dying or whatever, came up, and I was shocked, because I actually felt it in my body, that feeling like, oh, I could have a drink now. And, you know, I consciously looked at it and said, no, we're not doing that, because it's a black and white picture. So you know, I'm the master of that now. It doesn't control me, right? So so the idea is that you're still going to have, you know, you're still going to be aware and conscious of it. It doesn't mean to say it'll disappear in your conscious living, but if it does come up again, you know, part of what we do is to clear the energy and and even give you skills to deal with it. That's part of the session work I do. There's action skills given to help the person I'm working with action the change that we've made, to make it conscious, so when they see it come up again, they make a different choice. And then, of course, when dealing with physical issues, you know, you might be dealing, you know, I'm not sure what you do, Bill, exactly, but someone that works more physically with the person, can give them physical ways to work with that. But I give them, you know, I like to give them, you know, little exercises or something where they can be consciously aware of their behavior, so they don't continue to unconsciously do the same thing they've been doing for 3 decades, or however old they are, that they've always done. But, you know, we've cleared the pattern, but they need to action the change, and then they become the master of it. And then guess what? Their body benefits from it, because the body is the result of the mind and the emotions actioning on it. The body doesn't have a choice. It's just sitting there. It's like the foot soldier that doesn't have a choice. So our negative thinking or limiting thinking, you know, emotions stored in our body, you know, from the past, those basically play out through the physical body. And really the body has no choice. There is no choice on that level. Okay. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I'd like to tie this into one of the how the role of the brain plays in physical pain. Like, how do we start tying that? Because a lot of the stuff we've been speaking on is more, well, theoretical. For someone who's in physical pain, it's like out there in woo-woo land. Exactly. Landing it in the physical body, and how we can start shifting that in the physical body.
Exactly. So you know, anybody that has physical pain knows that it brings your awareness and attention to it. It's just, and that's the purpose of pain in the body. It serves us. You know, of course, if you have chronic pain or or acute pain for a period of time, you know, you're not thinking of it as this wonderful thing that's telling you you've got a problem, right? So the idea of so the idea of that's its positive use, right? But what happens is that we don't realize we have the choice of our own thoughts and our own thinking to allow ourselves to disengage the body from being stuck in that attention, right? So, like, you know, some people might meditate, and there's different, you know, physical things that you would do to help them, you know, bring their awareness away from the pain, right? So they don't notice it enough, right? But the idea that you're thinking, so let's say if you have patterns of thinking that you were brought up with, you know, around the beliefs around who you are, right? So I don't know if you've heard of Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life.
I have, yes.
So that was like a landmark book in the 70s, I believe it was, where she tied the idea of emotions, trapped emotions, and emotion emotional content to areas of the body where people have problems, right? So like one of the things was anger, frustration is like liver and gallbladder area. Back pain, for instance, back pain's about support. So if you think about the back is what supports our whole system. So the idea that if you have back problems, you can see a tie, and you know, she's worked with many people, and I've in my sessions, I see where people that feel like they got so much weight in their shoulders, they have beliefs and patterns around supporting other people, you know, the ways of thinking that you know, a good person helps everybody. You know, so the idea of that sounds like a wonderful belief, right? That, you know, a good person helps people, but that isn't always the case. You know, what if you don't have the energy? What if that belief or the way you're brought up, you know, the sort of golden rule type thing, what if that doesn't, you know, what if you can't do that? What if you physically can't do that? What if you're in a situation where you feel like you've got to support the family because the family's falling apart, or there's someone that you're taking care of, and you're the only caregiver, and then, you know, it feels like it's all the weights on your shoulders or supporting your back, right? So what can happen is a psychological component of that can actually translate to the physical problem in the body. Okay, does that make sense?
It does. It does. When I when I looked into Louise Hay's work, of
Yeah.
course, I was looking at it from the perspective of knee pain, because that was my whole deal. So the Louise Hay work was about knee pain, and it was a fear of that, taking that step forward. And when I read that, I was like, oh, like, oh,
I noticed.
like I got a spotlight shined on it, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh man. And
Yeah.
it was totally true for me in my life at that time, and how the pain in my knee was showing up in my life. And then
Yeah.
does she get into the right side, left side, male,
Yeah.
female stuff? Is
Yeah, the
I
body
wasn't.
Yeah, totally. The body symbology, like, you know, right side is the female, right? I
Mhm.
believe the left side is the male.
No,
Where's the other
I
side?
thought it was other.
I'm
Left
sorry.
side was female.
Left side. That's right. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the idea is where the pain is. So I work with people where they had pain on their right hand side, right? Um, so the idea and it came up that they actually had beliefs that they've gotten from their father
Mhm.
on the right side, right? So the male. And so, you know, we use muscle testing as part or I use muscle testing as part of the session with the client.
Mhm.
So, you know, we do muscle testing to confirm where beliefs come from, and then we work on resolving those beliefs, and then freeing the person from that energy and the beliefs. So if you think of the mind level as like, it's a lot like a computer. You know, I don't want to, you know, make us like we're a bunch of robots or computers, but our brain does work like a computer in a lot of ways. So the memory that's stored there, that can be changed, you know. So just like we use memory exercises to learn how to play guitar or whatever like that, you know, you can use that same method, albeit the method that I was taught and I help you with, that accesses the theta brainwave. It happens a lot quicker, so you don't have to use repetition. It's like changing the pattern and the memory that's there, the belief that's there, I mean, and then even downloading a new belief to support you, just like someone would use repetition to say, you know, I'm gonna hit that golf ball perfectly every time. So they say that to themselves and envision it. So think of it in the same idea, but it's in a session where we're removing the stuff that doesn't work with you, that's defective beliefs almost, that don't support you. Unsupport is a better way of saying it. And then downloading new beliefs and programs that would actually benefit you and support your whole being. And then your body comes back into homeostasis because it can let go of the tension that was caused by those limiting beliefs.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Pain Education Corner. If you have a special talent or skill to relieve pain and you'd like to become a guest on our show, visit us at thecomellafoundation.org/interview. Help us spread the word on eliminating pain and suffering in the world. That's foundation.org/interview. And now I want to make sure we're bridging the gap here for the listeners, that it's like, so we have this limiting belief, this belief that is no longer working for us, that is causing us to hold tension in our physical body a certain way.
Yes.
That's creating back pain.
Yes.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're facilitating, you're working with them to identify this belief that no longer serves. And then we're removing it, these techniques that you're showing, and then you're reprogramming, for lack of a better term. It's not the ideal thing, but how could we replace this with other thoughts or patterns in our mind and our emotions,
right,
that will allow the body to feel differently, to move differently, to function differently, because now it feels differently, you're thinking differently, so the back pain doesn't happen.
Yeah. So if you think about it, I think of even beliefs, because I work in the body level, which is different than the belief level. The body level is, I call it memories, because there's like memories stored in the body, like frozen in time. So if you think of the body as the past, that the thinking is like a higher vibration. We have our think before we act. You know, we've all heard that's I think before I act, which is a fact. We always do, right? So, well, hopefully we do, you know, think before we act. But so the idea is that if you think about it, the frequency of thoughts are, you know, we don't see our thoughts, right? So they're very fast. Emotions are like a lower frequency than that. So we feel emotions because it's in the body. Then the lowest level is our body level, you know, which is where these memories are. So I kind of look at even beliefs as a memory. So the idea is that the memory is the past. So all the work I do, really, whatever method I use, whether it's working on the beliefs or the memories stuck in the body, cell memory, we need to unlock the past, because the problem is that there's like a memory or a belief stuck that's based on the past. So we need to awaken the past, make a change in the past, and then bring the awareness of the change into now time. Okay. I know that sounds a little esoteric, but anyways, you were going to say.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Maybe we could use your experience as an example of what they were talking about. You had this really low point in your life, suicidal thoughts. You were medicating with alcohol and drugs and prescription drugs and things like that.
Yeah.
Can you give a person an example of how you might take the younger version of David and apply that, and how you would move forward from there?
Sure, brilliant. I can do that. So the idea, if I came to see me with that, is, you know, we would go into, you know, you might say, what's going on with you? And, you know, I'm depressed all the time. You know, I feel terrible in my body. I don't want to be here, you know, all that. So, you know, what we might do is, you know, we're going to use muscle testing. So, you know, we would use muscle testing to discover if you have beliefs in your subconscious that's supporting the way you are. And also we would test to see if you have body level memories, right? The fact that I'm having a physical response usually indicates there's body level component to it. It's just not a psychological belief problem. So, you know, so what we would do is we would work on, for instance, maybe we would muscle test, and we would discover that the beliefs come through your mother's side of programming, that your mother is programming, has some programming around self-worth. So if you think about it, if my mother has a self-worth program where she doesn't feel good about herself, she doesn't feel like she's a good person for some way, you know, some belief or pattern around that, it's impossible for her to parent you, or parent me in this case, saying I'm a good person. It's very I'm not impossible, but it's very difficult for her, because how can she give me something she doesn't feel? She doesn't feel good about herself. So then all of a sudden, guess what? We have that same programming. I don't feel good about, I don't even know I have it. You know, I'm just a baby, right? But we're imprinted with it from the time we're in our mother's womb. I'm only using mother for an example here. Is we're imprinted with the emotions, the beliefs, the energy around the way our mother acts. So if that's imprinted right on us, so here we're born and it's like we're imprinted with the programming that I'm not worthy. There's something wrong with me. So I go through my life with this belief, I can achieve things in life, which I have, there's things I was good at when I was younger, and people would say, you're really good. Yeah, you're a really nice person, Dave. You're a really kind person. But do you think I believe that? No, because I had programming that I had to resolve that said I'm not worthy on some level or something like that. You'll never amount to anything. That was one of my things. My dad used to say, you'll never amount to anything. That was one of the phrases he'd say. So guess what? I took that on.
Sure.
So that actually led to a way of being that I thought that. So then it would create psychological pain, and I have pain in my body. So then, the drinking. So we get to the point of where I've already told that story. So when you come to me and work with me, then we would muscle test. And chances are, and in my case, I did have emotions on a body level. So we would work on having you uncover where these emotions in the past are stored. So that's not necessarily by finding out what the story is, like, traditional counseling would be looking, we got to find out the source from a story in your past. In fact, it's completely the opposite. We don't even need to worry about that. All we're going to do is I'm going to get you to tell me where in your body are the memories stored. And then you're going to tell me, you're just going to know it. I know it might not make sense, but you're going to tell me where they are. And we're going to actually get you to witness where those memories are in your body. And when you do that, it's like you're awakening in the past, because witnessing it's like quantum physics. I won't get too technical, but the idea of some quantum physics exercise or experiments have proven that the idea is when we witness something, it becomes real. When we look away from it, it doesn't really exist. It's a wave. It's not a physical object anymore. So, I don't want to go too deep in. So the idea of witnessing, when we uncover it, you witness it, and then we work on clearing that, and then witnessing the change and bringing it into awareness of who you are now. So it's kind of like we're going back to the past, awakening it, clearing it, and then bringing the awareness of the new you that's changed into your present time awareness, which is where all power resides, in the present time. You have to be conscious before any change to happen,
Yeah.
So.
This is great. Like I'm digging the conversation. Interesting piece. There's a couple pieces around our beliefs that we were exposed to. Growing up, when we're born, when we're growing up, our parents or grandparents or aunts, uncles, cousins, whoever. It's our environment. And one of the big things that I hear is, well, my mother had knee pain and her mother had knee pain and my aunts had knee pain. So it's like, well, I'm going to have knee pain and I'll have to have a knee replacement because there's no other option. But it just ties into a belief.
Totally.
Or if it's the same emotional pattern that your mother walked with, and her mother walked with, and your aunts and uncles and cousins and brothers and sisters and everybody else walked with, that was your environment. So now you're going to walk the same way and your knees are going to hurt in the very same pattern.
Yes. So there's two components, and like that's beautiful, the example, because there's two components could be working here, right? There could be actually a genetic component, like epigenetics is.
Sure.
They've done studies where genetic components, we all know about, like, there's a heart problems in my family and all that type of thing. But actually behaviors and the way you react things, they've actually proven that it can be passed down. So that component could be the knee, could be a genetic component, right? Who knows what, it could be an ancestral component 7 generations ago where something happened traumatic that froze the memory in the knee. And you got to remember that genetics passes it down one generation to the next. And like I say, science is proving that this is a real thing. So the idea is it could be that physical component that's genetic, but then also the belief component is the mind takes a hold of that and makes a story of it, right? It's always fun. We get together at Christmas and, I got that bum shoulder still. Yeah, so do I, and then it becomes a story. And then, we even get, when we work in belief work, is that people will honor their stories, which is the beliefs. And then they can even hang on to them and not want to let them go on an energy level. Because they could be honoring their family through. I know that sounds a little strange, but the idea that it could be both the mind and the body working. That example was really good.
Yeah. Well, I see a lot of people gain energy, they gain attention, they gain validity for their pain. And if
Yeah,
they didn't have their pain to talk about,
yeah,
what would they talk about? Who would they be?
yes, yeah,
How would the conversations go at Christmas if I didn't complain about my knee or my back the whole time?
yeah,
And a lot of times people take on that victim role,
yeah,
that it allows them to be significant or validated, or
right.
they wouldn't be seen or heard if they didn't have that issue.
Exactly. They play their role, it could be their
Mm.
role. We all have, and when it comes to our family, we all have our position and role in the family, whether we consciously know it or not. So, no, very, very true. So the idea is that, you know, when I work with people, releasing these patterns, it's also knowing, we also work on the downloads that I talked about and beliefs, and
Mhm.
also feelings where, um, you know, what if you could actually get what you got from being in pain without having the pain? You know,
Uh,
that's,
the
and
the
again,
attention, the energy, the being listened to,
yeah,
being supported, all of that, instead of using the injury
yes,
as a way of gaining it. I
yes,
I can I can live my life. I can live the experience of my life in a rich and full and awesome way
yes,
without having to go through the pain to get it.
exactly, exactly. So,
What a concept. That's
yeah, so
great.
it is possible. I'm the living example of it. I was
Mhm.
a living example of pain and suffering at 20, and now I'm the living example of joy and wonder. Like, people don't realize, one of the things in my that helped me a lot was, I discovered that, the choice I had, that the emotions that I was experiencing, um, you know, anger, frustration, a lot of those lower emotions that were tied to depression, sadness, grief, and stuff, all of those were tied more to my fight or flight response than they were to, my true emotional state, which is like joy, wonder, happy. If you have to ask anybody, what's the one thing you want? Oh, I want to be happy. Like, it doesn't, get out
Mhm.
picture in a million different ways in our lives individually, but really they just want to be, people want to be happy. If you ask them one thing, well, what is that? Like that's an emotional response that has a specific frequency. It has a specific way of being. Now, the thing I learned in my discovery was you can actually develop the ability to be that. In other words, I can tune, like you can actually, train yourself just like you would train yourself to, with any, to play guitar or whatever, play a certain chord. You can actually train yourself to tune your emotional state to a higher frequency, like joy or wonder, right?
Mhm.
Even if, 2 seconds later, you're back in pain and suffering around your back, you know.
Mhm.
So there's a way to actually do that, because of stress and the way stress has affected our environment, and, we all have our own expression of that, that psychology has actually normalized these lower emotions, which are more tied to pain and suffering and a fight or flight response. Just because so many people have them, it's like, oh, this is just the way we're supposed to be. No, it doesn't
Mm.
have to be that way,
Yeah.
you know? So, so one of the things I help people is that when we release these patterns and beliefs and the memories are stored on a body level, it actually frees the person from that fight or flight response, which more automatically gets them in those negative emotions.
Uh-huh.
And then guess what? The beliefs go along with those as well. So it's like we're stuck. But if you can free the person if I can free myself, like if I was working on myself, like I did, of those of those memories and beliefs, replace them with positive ones, then what happens is it opens the door to those higher emotions, the state of happiness and joy and wonder, and that seem unachievable if you're sitting there in pain. And that's our natural state, actually.
Yeah.
So,
And I think it's unfortunate that you have a lot of different professionals that set the bar really low,
yeah,
that it's like
yeah,
it becomes normal because they've set the bar low.
yeah,
And I think it's time, and I'm all for empowering people to with the setting the bar higher, having higher expectations
yeah,
for doctors and physical therapists and massage therapists, anybody that's out there that's doing work that is just being complacent and setting where they're at.
yes,
I think when the people that are coming for that type of help either demand a higher level of support from the people that they're going to,
mhm,
or they leave that person and now they begin working with someone who is going to up level
yes,
and increase their game in a way where now it is possible. Now we can look
yeah,
and see how we can increase that vibration, raise
yes,
those emotions, those higher levels of experiences in our physical life.
yeah. No, very true. And that's the biggest thing for me is that I'm consciously aware that, if there's something I want to achieve, and I attract someone, or am connected with someone that to help me, and I just, they're not on board with me, they're not the right person to work with. I know right away
Right.
that,
Right.
nothing against them. It's, no judgment. It's just, I know, like you said, if they can't envision it with me, then it's going to become difficult to do that. Now, the other thing I discovered is I got to do the work. You know,
Mhm.
as much as what I work with people, and people can have shifts.
You
Um,
have, I just want to be clear. You have to do the work as a therapist working with a client, or you have to do the work as define that a little bit more so
yeah,
everybody's
yeah.
clear.
There's two components. Yes, I can see 'em. So the idea of, like, when I work with people, the modalities that I work in, I've gotten so much quicker that people seem to get quicker results from it. But there are components of it where they have to action it. So even if we work on clearing this stuff and changing it for the person, there's still a component of action that, not to say, that not to say that it can't clear it, but really the idea that they have to do the work, like, some people, they want it all done for them.
Right.
The 5-minute fix. Everything's so quick nowadays. Nobody wants to watch video longer than 5 minutes.
Mm.
So, and I understand that, but the reality is that there's work that might be done, and you're going to benefit yourself. You can't be all done for you. And the component of taking responsibility for your own health was a big part. I forgot to mention that. Really, that was probably one of the biggest things, is that unless I took responsibility for my own health, now it doesn't mean to say, I'm not saying do it alone. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm the master of my own health. Even when I go to a doctor, I don't just accept what they say. I understand, his training and everything, but I'll listen to him, and I might get a second opinion, or I might feel out, does this feel right for me, or do some research myself. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not as arrogant to say, I'm better than him or anything, or no more. But the idea is that I take responsibility, ultimately, for my own health. I don't, I might not know what that means. I might not see how I can action that, but that's the thing I've discovered, that as soon as I realized that, my health, my healing back to health accelerated immensely. That was a
Mhm.
big part of the mind aspect of healing that really transformed me, that allowed my personal healing. And I see that with clients, is that, a lot of what we do in sessions is to give you a mental concept to take away, as well as
Mhm.
to actually do the work to clear,
Mhm.
change the beliefs and work on the body level memories and emotions, clearing
Mhm.
those. But a lot of it too is about giving people perceptions about themselves that they didn't know. that aren't those negative limiting things. Like when people have unconscious beliefs, for instance, I'll say to them, did you act that way because of those beliefs? Yeah, I did. Yeah, well, you acted that way, but that's not who you are. You didn't even stand a chance. It's an unconscious belief. People don't realize we're only conscious 6% of the time. I remember when I heard that in my training. What? 6%? That can't be right. But we're actually running unconscious programs that run our life. It's like when we drive our car. When you first drove your car, 16 years old, or I don't know when you guys drive in the States there, but 16 too. So
yeah.
You're like, your hands, they get, they got to vice your hands off the wheel at the end of the first time you go, because you're so focused. But then now, like you're just thinking about what you're going to do, and you've driven the last quarter mile, not even watching the road, because your unconscious mind did that, right? So that's good. So the idea is that, if you can, if you can realize that unconscious mind that runs your life, but what programming's in there, so that's really where, if you have negative programming and your life is an out picture of that, it's not working out, you got pain in your body, you don't feel good about yourself or whatever, it might be out picture. And I always say to people, don't worry about it, take a breath. It wasn't your fault, it was unconscious. How, would you blame somebody that didn't know, that they were doing something that, that created an outcome that was negative? No, they didn't know. How do you blame them? They didn't know. If it was your child, you don't blame your child, right? So but we do that to ourselves. So that's another thing. It's those type of mind perceptions that are part of everything I do, is because I want you to be free of the psychological component. And even with, I'm talking about, this little bit esoteric stuff, but even with pain in your body, people can become to hate their body, have beliefs around their body because they've been carrying pain so long. So, so part of the process can even be learning to communicate and connect with your body and love your body again. Your body's doing its job. It's just trying to, it's just trying to keep you safe and do what it's trying to do, and do the best it can. So, again, all those psychological components can be as part of a session as well when it's needed. So,
yeah. Well, David, we're going to start ramping down here, tying up today. There's a lot more that we can cover. And what I'd really like is to begin the conversation about our next one we're going to have, because I think the content that you have here, what we kind of outlined for this, can be broken up into two conversations. But I want to, there's a couple of things, and I think it's more for people that are looking for support from you, that this isn't one of those deals where they go for one session and we're good. This is generally going to be a little bit more, you want to make sure you've thoroughly removed those belief systems and then replace them with other things where you're really seeing the changes in your life. That's one of the pieces on there. And let's see. And that there are a number of other tools that you offer clients. Could you speak to a few of those real quick?
I certainly can. Yeah. One of the things is to create the homeostasis in the body, because really I look at healing as the body can heal itself. It really doesn't need us or a doctor even, or pills. It doesn't need it if it's put in the proper space, if it's given what it needs. I'm not saying obviously, that's where doctors and people that work like myself, is I help you with that aspect. But can we start that again? Sorry.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Just a second. So can you ask the question again?
What are the other tools you use to help clients?
Right. Yeah. So what I try and do is part of the process, beyond clearing the emotions and the cell memory and the beliefs, is to give them tools that they can use on a daily basis to help them stay out of the fight or flight response in their body, to allow them to become conscious of the thoughts that they have, to be more present, right? Which will allow the body to stay in homeostasis, and and hopefully the body will relax, and then the pain and the suffering that's coming from that, won't be needed. That response of the body to the beliefs and memories and emotions, will be gone. So what I do is, when we work in a session, I actually use a little meditation as part of the session right at the beginning. It's only like 5 minutes long, but it gets people connected with their own inner heart intelligence. So I don't know if you're familiar with heart math. It's a wonderful site where they're realizing, the idea of connecting to heart intelligence can allow the body to stay out of stress, which puts the body into the perfect space for healing, whatever that would be. And that's one thing that people get. Everybody that I work with, that's a tool that they experience in it, but they also get a recording of it. And a lot of times I'll share with people, why don't you do that every day? I do it every day. It just keeps me centered. It keeps my whole body system into homeostasis, or whatever that would be for each individual. But for me, I would never go a day without doing that, because it just keeps my mind, my emotions, and my body in a balanced state. And so that's one of the things. And like I would mentioned earlier, the individual sessions, generally there's some takeaway that I give the client. It's unique to the situation we're working on. So it's just a little exercise or something, nothing difficult. So they don't have to meditate for like 2 hours a day or something that they can't do. It's generally something small that they can action the changes we've done. So, and again, once they action them, it becomes real for them, right? Just like practicing. When you work with them on a physical level, you may get them to move their leg a certain way, and then over time, all of a sudden their leg just does that naturally. So it's in the same idea, whatever this little exercise, they action it and they feel the benefit of it. And then when they feel it, their mind sees, boy, this is a good thing. I'm going to do this every day because I'm feeling a benefit. And that's the power of it. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. David, I know we'll have all of your contact information in the description of the video and the show notes as well. And we're going to have a link below this video that will allow people to schedule a time directly with you through the Comella Foundation.
Oh, wonderful. I'd be honored.
Perfect. Did you have anything else you'd like to tie up right before we end here?
Let me see. You know what? The thing that comes to me, don't give up on yourself. I didn't. 20 years, I could have easily, I could have given up, but I didn't. And it was the best thing I ever did, as far as that stairway up to where I am right now seems. And if I reflect on it, it wasn't one session, or it wasn't even a year, for where I got. Everybody's unique in that process, but don't give up on yourself. Ask for help, whoever that is, whatever. If you feel safe and comfortable with a certain person, even if your mind might say, I don't really understand necessarily what they're doing, but something feels right about that, explore it. I'm not saying leap into it, but at least explore it, and that heart intelligence that I talked about, that is you. That's the intelligence everybody has, and trust that, because that's really what got me to the point where I am today. So don't give up on yourself. You're worth it.
Yeah, David, thank you very much. That was awesome. Appreciate you for taking the time to speak with us today, to share your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience. It was wonderful. We're definitely going to have you back if that's okay with you. We'd like maybe in a few weeks or a month, get you on there to kind of tie up some of these other pieces that are out there that I'd like to dig in with you a little bit deeper on.
That would be wonderful. I'd love to. Yeah,
I'll be reaching out for that. And but for today, we'll wrap it up.
Okay. Thank you very much. And looking forward to our next talk. And thank you, everybody, for listening, whoever listens to this.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, David, for being here. This is Bill Paravano, the Knee Pain Guru, on behalf of the Comella Foundation for the Pain Education Podcast. Appreciating you being here. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you on next week's podcast. Thank you for tuning into this week's segment of the Pain Education Corner. Join us next week for another conversation on natural healing methods to eliminate pain. To learn more about the work we do at the Comella Foundation, please visit our website at the Comella, Comella Foundation.org.